Welcome to the Write, Publish, Market podcast. If you're a business owner thinking a book would be a great marketing asset for your business, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already committed, even better. I'm your host, Jodi Brandon, book publishing strategist and partner for business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, and 20-plus year veteran of the book publishing industry. On the Write, Publish, Market podcast, in addition to learning from me and other industry experts, you'll hear from other business owners about their experiences as we explore all facets of writing, publishing, and marketing a book that will help your business grow in ways you might not even be dreaming of yet. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hey, business owners and leaders, let's make a mindset shift. Let's go from thinking about self-publishing, being open to self-publishing, but only if traditional publishing doesn't pan out, into self-publishing is not a consolation prize. Self-publishing is not plan B. A lot of times for business owners especially, self-publishing should be your plan A. So let's make that mindset shift today and talk about why self-publishing should not just be a backup plan, but should actually be your goal as a business owner, CEO, leader, entrepreneur. Let's take a step back first and think about, how did this even come to be that self-publishing is plan B? Self-publishing is only for those of us who can't get a traditional book deal, who are unable to make the traditional publishing path work for whatever the reason. That mindset tells me that you don't actually understand what your book is going to do in your business. If that's you, stop right there and do some of that foundational work. I can list some episodes we've done before in the show notes here. That core foundational work is so important to your book plan. And once you know the role that your book is going to fit into your bigger business ecosystem, it's going to be a lot easier for you to make that mindset shift from self-publishing as a backup plan to self-publishing as plan A. But where this comes from is just, the cachet of traditional publishing, because that's the original, that's the OG in the book publishing world. That's where anybody who used to publish a book did so traditionally. And so, things started creeping into the industry. And basically what happened was anybody who didn't have a traditional book deal was thought of as, quote unquote, not real publishing. Traditional publishing was thought of as the only legitimate model to bring your book to market. And that is just not the case these days. There are traditional publishing, for sure, hybrid publishing, and self-publishing. Self-publishing for business owners, we're going to get into a lot of the nitty-gritty reasons here in a few minutes, but you have to be open to the three paths to publication. You cannot have your mind set that it's traditional publishing or bust. If that's the case, then I urge you to go back and think about really how your book is going to work in your business and if that's actually the case or not. The traditional book publishing world is not an author-centric model. They are trying to make money for themselves, their business. They are not worried about whether you, a business owner, a CEO, a leader with, goals of your own, plans of your own, they're not focused on whether those thresholds are met. They're worried about making money for themselves. And as they should be, right? They're a business also. So you've got to marry your goals to your path to publication. So, I have nothing against traditional book publishing. I've said this before. That's where I started in this industry. It's great for mass market distribution. It's great for, placement in retail stores, bookstores, and other retail outlets. But you're giving up a lot. So let's talk about some of those things. What are the things that self-publishing allows business owners to prioritize versus what traditional publishing looks like? It's control, everyone. It's control over the process. It's control over the timeline. It's control over the pricing. It's control in a lot of ways over your royalty rate based on, what pricing strategy you implement. It's control over the messaging. It's control over the product itself. What does it look like packaging wise? What format is it? What size is it? All of that. And it also control over the contents. What does that book include? There are times when a traditional publisher will urge or require a title change. a change to what's included, what's not included in the book. We need you to add a chapter about this. We need this chapter to come out, those sorts of things. As a self-publishing author, you have ownership over the entire process. Now, obviously, that's going to involve some project management. That's something you can figure out. But when you are in charge of the process and you are maintaining control of that process, you can figure out how you're going to reach your audience with your book. You get to figure out what that messaging looks like, what kind of experimentation around, direct sales, sales multipliers, bundles with your book with other products and services and freebies and all of the things. You decide what all of that looks like when you self-publish. As a business owner, you have a brand. Your business has a brand. You maybe have a personal brand. Those matter. And you want to make sure that your book fits in to that larger business ecosystem, which is something, as you know, we talk about on this podcast a lot. And the reason we talk about it a lot is because it is that important. Your book needs to fit into your larger business ecosystem. It has to be part of your client journey. It has to be part of your value, your offer ladder, your value proposition. It has to be part of all of those things. And if you are not driving that messaging and you are not the one making those decisions, that's not always going to be the case. Hey there, business owner and aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. So yes, traditional publishing is often great at retail placement, but is a retail outlet where your audience is going to be reached to get them to see your book, buy your book, make the next step to get on your email list, download your freebie, set up a consulting call, whatever the call to action is in your book. That's never going to happen if readers don't find your book to begin with. The right readers don't find your book to begin with. So think about that control. A lot of business owners are type A personalities. We're used to being in charge. We like to be in charge. We like to be the decision maker. So self-publishing makes a lot of sense for that reason alone, let alone, all of the other factors that come into play. Controlling the timeline. Self-publishing can be a lot faster. I want to say is a lot faster, but of course there are exceptions, but typically much, much faster than the traditional book publishing world. You're controlling your pricing model. You're controlling, the pricing model then for any third-party seller. Royalty rates depend on what that pricing structure looks like. That's going to help you figure out how much of your book success is going to be attributed to actual book royalties versus other, more intangible ROI, speaking fees, consulting fees, filled group programs and masterminds and client rosters and all of those sorts of things, charging more for clients, one-on-one clients, because of the legitimacy of, having a published book, being considered as a trusted expert. So think about all of those things. And it sounds almost trivial just to say, I want to be in charge. I want to have control over the process. But that really is important, particularly to business owners writing books, CEOs writing books, leaders writing books, because you have this bigger business ecosystem that this book is now going to be a part of. So the book needs to naturally fit in. That needs to be clear to you, to your customers, to anyone, sort of entering your business world. You want that to be clear. So think about this as a strategic decision, choosing to self-publish. Not I'm self-publishing because I couldn't get a traditional book deal. I'm self-publishing because I couldn't get any interest or traction from a traditional book publisher. The longer you wait to get your book out there, once you're working on a book, the more delayed that authority building is, that credibility building is, that trust building is. Maybe messaging becomes outdated or needs to be tweaked due to that long timeline of traditional book publishing. You want to get your message out there so that your book can serve your business in the way that you know it can and the way you want it to. So think about it. Self-publishing as your plan A, right? Your goal is not necessarily book sales. You understand the money is not in the book. The book is going to bring in money indirectly from all of those other things. The book is going to support your services, your products, your programs, the speaking arm of your business. It's going to help you grow all of those things. The money is not necessarily going to come strictly from book royalties. You already have an audience out there. You're not trying to just find all sorts of random new people, which is great if that happens. If your book is in some retail outlet or a third-party seller and people find it, fantastic. You're already speaking to your people. You already have messaging that works. So now you're going to use it with the book to just further grow that business ecosystem. So think of self-publishing as a strategic and intentional business decision. And then you can see why it's not settling. It's not plan B. It's actually plan A. So I hope that you can make that shift, that mindset shift I talked about at the beginning of the episode. It's not, can I get a traditional book deal? It's not, I'm open to self-publishing if traditional publishing doesn't work out. It's not a consolation prize. It's more, what does my business need my book to do? And then how can I make that happen? How do I position this book in order to make that happen? So I'm going to link in the show notes another episode, how I sometimes think of self-publishing as a choose your own adventure. And we did a fun episode 171 on that topic. And then also hybrid publishing. Don't sleep on hybrid publishing. It's an author subsidized model, but it's different from traditional publishing. It's sort of, it's the hybrid. It's sort of the mix in between there if you're not into all of the project management. That's episode 150. I'll also link that in the show notes. So this is the first episode. I've sort of split this big topic up into two. So this was the first part here of this, business first book series. And then next week, we're going to talk about what's possible. Once you've made this mindset shift we've talked about this week, especially with regard to how your book supports your revenue, supports your client journey. Next week, we're going to talk about, a little bit more tangible, like how to make that happen once you've made this mindset shift. So thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode gave you a lot to think about, and I will see you next week after you've made that mindset shift. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag WritePublishMarket to spread the love.